So I think, though, today we live in a beautiful world where it is possible for people to self-publish their books and get them on Amazon. And there are a lot of opportunities for people. And so I've started helping some women because I have the digital background, computer layout because I did all my workbooks myself, laid them out, and I use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign. So I've started helping other women prepare their manuscripts so that they're ready to be self-published.
Hi friends, this is Read and Write with Natasha podcast. My name is Natasha Tynes and I'm an author and a journalist. In this channel, I talk about the writing life, review books, and interview authors. Hope you enjoy the journey. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. I have with me today Toby Dorr, who dared the unthinkable. What she did was she liberated a handsome younger man, a convicted murderer from Lansing Correctional Facility. And since completing her time in federal prison, Toby has achieved 2 master's degrees and rebuilt a broken life. Through her memoir, Living with Conviction, you will feel all the heart-pounding, tear-jerking, heartbreaking, eye-opening experiences that touch the most primal human needs, the need to be significant. So, Toby, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Wow, what a story. This is like a Netflix show. So
yeah, it's a pretty crazy story, that's for sure.
I love crazy stories. Wait until you hear my stories, but yours are crazier, definitely. But so I'm gonna get my coffee and I'm gonna kick back and I'm gonna listen. So Toby, thank you for joining me. And I think we're gonna start by the start of your story. So what happened, with I am assuming you fell in love, but just tell us how your unusual story started.
I did. So, I used to tell myself I had the perfect white picket fence life. And I think I told myself that because I wanted to believe it.
Okay.
But in 2004, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so that kind of makes you stop and think. And I realized I really hadn't done anything to make a difference in this world. I've just been taking up space. So I felt called to do something that would make a difference. And so in 2006, I started a prison dog program. It was 2004. I started the prison dog program. And I took dogs from shelters into the prison. And they lived with inmates, and the inmates trained them. And then I took them out to adoptions. And, that was something that was really making a difference. I was saving the lives of dogs that were going to be euthanized, but I was also saving the lives of the inmates. And I didn't even realize it, that was going to happen. But, when you take a dog into a prison and give him to a man who has maybe been locked up for 10, 20, or 30 years, and has never even had a visit. And now they have a dog that they can hug and hold. It just changes the world. And so that prison dog program became my life.
Okay.
But in 2006, 2005, I'm getting my years mixed up. In 2005, my dad was dying of colon cancer, and it was just a devastating event for me. And I kind of fell apart. And one of my dog handlers noticed that I was struggling, and he asked me what was wrong, what was going on in my life. And it felt so validating to have someone notice that I was struggling in some way. And, it kind of opened my eyes. And eventually I fell in love with this dog handler. And when he decided that he wanted to be with me outside of prison and thought escape was his only option, at first I thought that's a dumb idea. There's no way I would do anything like that. But I eventually thought, well, maybe I could do that. And so I found myself doing the craziest thing, which was helping a convicted murderer escape from prison. And up until then, I had never even had a speeding ticket. I had never had any kind of trouble with anything in my whole life. I never even was grounded in high school because I always did everything my parents wanted me to do. And I kind of just came apart all at once in an international headline grabbing way.
How did you help him escape?
Well, he hid in a dog crate inside of my van when I came to pick up dogs for a dog adoption.
Oh, wow. And nobody noticed?
Nobody noticed. Actually, he was in the crate and some inmates brought the crate down and put it in my van. And, with some extra equipment, we were trying to get out of the prison. So the officers were expecting it. They just weren't expecting that there was going to be a person inside.
How big was that crate?
It was a pretty big dog crate, but it wasn't big enough to hold a 6'4" man. I don't know how he fit in there. I have no idea, but it was a bigger dog crate that you could have put a German Shepherd or some large dog in. Pretty good sized dog crate.
Okay, so you put him in the dog crate. You drive off. What happens next? What happens next?
Well, so we had this plan to go to this cabin in a remote area of Tennessee and just hang out for a month or so. And then we didn't have any plans. We spent a lot of time planning the escape, but we didn't plan what you were going to do after the escape. And, after 2 weeks, they figured out where we were, the FBI fugitive team, and they set up a trap for us on the interstate. And we had a high-speed car crash, 100 miles an hour with all these police cars chasing us. And we went through the woods and we went into other lanes. And it was a crazy, crazy thing. But John ended up losing control of the truck and we hit a tree head on at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
It was a pretty wild and crazy ride, that's for sure. And, so then we were kind of just ripped apart. John went into one police car, I went into another. We went to 2 different jails and that was it. We were gone. I was a mess. I was just a emotional, broken mess because, I was so filled with shame and I was so embarrassed. And here I was, going to court and this person who'd never even had a speeding ticket. And it was kind of shell shock because I never pictured myself being in that position, which was ridiculous because of course I was going to get in trouble,
How old were you?
I was 48. I was 48.
Were you married at that time?
I was married. Yeah. I was
Any
married,
kids?
and I had 2 sons who were grown. They were both in college.
Okay. So you wanted to leave your husband for that man?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. At that time I did. And, it maybe wasn't my brightest decision, but it definitely forced my life in a different direction. So I ended up with a 21-month state sentence and a 27-month federal sentence. Luckily for me, they let them run at the same time. So I only had to serve 27 months, which was a long time. It felt like forever. But in the whole scheme of prison sentences, it's not very long. So I was, blessed to have a rather doable prison sentence. And so, in my life before this, I had a million things going on all the time. And I wanted to check things off my checklist every day. And I thought a good day is if I could finish 17 things. But here I found myself in jail and there's nothing to do. I mean, not anything to do the entire day and the entire next day and the entire next day. There's just nothing to do. You just sit there. And so I really struggled with that because I was a person who did things. I had projects. I got things done. And I realized that this was going to be a big lesson in patience. And I also realized that for the first time in my life, I had a gift of time that I could spend on myself. And I could take that 27 months and use it to look back and really analyze my life and figure out the things that needed to change in my life and figure out the parts about me that were working well and focus on making those stronger and work on healing the parts that were broken. And so my 27-month prison sentence really was a gift of time that I could use to, heal myself and figure out who I really was and what I wanted to do with my life. And so, actually I look at my time in prison as a blessing because it really was the only time in my whole life I've ever been able to just focus on myself and what was in my head.
Yeah. And do you think it was maybe like a midlife crisis, what you went
Oh,
through?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it was, and my husband and we started dating in high school. I was
Okay.
15. We got
Okay.
married when we were 20. And I think, we weren't fully cooked yet. We weren't people yet. We weren't adults. And we continued to grow after we were married, but we kind of did this kind of a thing. And, he went in one direction and I went in another, and we didn't have any common interests or any common activities except for taking our sons to their activity. And then when my sons were out of the house, it was just so blatantly obvious that I didn't even know this person who was sitting in the recliner in my living room. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what was important to him. And I couldn't relate to him in any way. And I think we just really grew very far apart during our marriage as we both grew up. We just grew in different directions.
So you go to prison. What was the reaction of your community, of your kids, of your son, of your husband, your neighbor? Since you lived kind of like the suburban, I guess, cliched life.
So, it just kind of blew my mind because I was on the news all the time. It was like every time I'd go to court, I'd be on the news shuffling into the courthouse. And it was like, how can that be a story over and over and over again?
It's a good story. I mean,
it is a good story.
I'm a journalist, and if I see a suburban mom falling in love with an inmate and putting him in a crate, it's a great story.
That's right. But and everybody that's why. That's true. And of course, my husband was so embarrassed and hurt. He didn't see it coming, and we lived in Kansas City, Kansas, but it's kind of like a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And he was just embarrassed because, he told me, what must the world think of me if they look at me and think that you left me for a convicted murderer? That makes me like trash. And I can understand that he would feel that way. And I know that it really hurt him and embarrassed him. And, that really wasn't my intent. And my sons, they were embarrassed. Their mom's running away with the younger guy, and it's all over TV. And my sisters were embarrassed because everybody wanted to talk about me, and they were tired of talking about me in my case. And so, it was difficult for people in my life. I think there were ones who just stepped in and loved me unconditionally. And then there was a whole bucket of people who just felt embarrassed and didn't want to be connected with me in any way. And it was very much a jolting crossroads in my life, I guess. So, when I came out of prison, I had to rebuild relationships, and in some cases, let go of relationships that just weren't going to work, and find my new life, find my new purpose, and make a whole new path. Because, when I got out of prison, I really didn't have anything. I went to live with my mom, but my husband, of course, divorced me while I was in prison. And I didn't have a home to go home to. I didn't have anything. So I just literally really started over.
So how did you start over? How did you start over, like with a record and all of that? How did you apply to jobs? How did you
really difficult. I couldn't get a job. I kept applying for jobs and I couldn't get a job because nobody wanted to hire a felon, and the places that would hire felons wouldn't hire me because I was too high profile of a case. And they didn't want the media coming around, asking questions in the parking lot. So I really struggled with finding a job. So I ended up, I knew how to build websites. I had played around with doing some website work before I went to prison. So I just started my own business and started building websites for people.
And so you started, and how did the business go?
It supported me. It wasn't very, richly rewarding. I got by. I supported myself, but it was a whole different life. So, before I went to prison, I'd had a corporate job, and my husband was a firefighter, and we always had whatever we needed. And so after prison, I had to start over really with nothing and rebuild. And there really has never been a point in my life since then where there's some kind of cushion to fall back on. It's been, keep working, keep scrambling, keep pushing through. So it's been quite a different way of living.
So So, what did your experience in prison teach you? How did it change you?
My experience in prison taught me how much I could love someone else. And I'm talking about the other women in prison.
Okay.
I had the most profound, deep relationships with these other women in prison because, we're all at our most vulnerable and we're all at our lowest place. And so, we would lift each other up on days when one of us would fall. And I've never had that strength of a platonic relationship with anybody. And it was just the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced, that sisterhood that I felt with a lot of women inside prison. It was also a time where I really got to know who I was and got to know what was important to me and figure out, how I could make a difference in the world, how I could go out and use this story to try to inspire other women to work through whatever they're facing, or perhaps to make a better decision if they're at a precipice of, making a decision that might throw their life away. So I just found purpose in prison. And I guess I found peace in prison, peace in my own head. So, I learned how to accept things that were difficult, and I learned how to work through them and come out on the other side.
So I read that because of all, and you mentioned that at the beginning of the interview that you had a lot of time on your hand, and that gave you the idea to help. Like when you got out of prison, how did you make this your purpose? Is to fill the time of inmates by helping them?
When I got out of prison, I knew I was going to write a book because everybody wanted to know, why did you do it, and how did you survive it, and so I knew I was going to write a book. But what I didn't realize is that there was more I could do than just that, my memoir, just telling that story. So I went to a conference in Chicago, and it was a Women Starting Movements conference, and it got me thinking, I used that time in prison really as a gift to myself to rebuild my life and build a strong foundation on which I could, rest for the rest of my life. But I realized that a lot of the women in prison that I knew maybe didn't have the skill set to know how to do that. So I created a workbook called Butterflies Unleashed, and I created it with women in mind that were in prison. And it just kind of takes them through, it's a 12-week program, and it just kind of takes them through a series of exercises to build strength of character, like perseverance, and know how to set boundaries, and discernment, and gratitude, and have a vision, and, learn to be strong in your faith. And it just had different exercises. And so, I felt really good about that. But then I realized, well, what about women who are getting out of prison, or they're getting out of a halfway house, or they're getting out off of parole, or they're in a battered women's shelter. They're trying to get out of a poor situation, because community is so important. We are the community we keep. And so it's important to be a productive member of a healthy community. And so I decided, well, I'm going to write a workbook to try to help women find and create a healthy community. And so I called that Be Unleashed. And then I created a third workbook called Dragonflies Unleashed, which is for women who feel a calling to do something with their life, but they can't really pinpoint what it is. So it's just some exercises to try to help them, define their vision. And actually, these are the workbooks right here. So there's 3 of them, but butterflies, bees, dragonflies, and bees. So
you go now to prison and give them away, or do you mail them?
Well,
how do
COVID hit, right after I got these done. So I had lined up some prisons and some halfway houses then the halfway houses, I was going to come in and actually teach these courses. And I had lined up another volunteer program in a women's prison locally who was going to take these and put them into their existing curriculum and use them inside the prison. But then COVID hit. And so, no volunteers could come in. And in fact, they're just now starting to let volunteers back in the prisons. It's been a long time. So really what I'm trying to do is to reach out to prison administrations and show them these books and reach out to other volunteer groups who already are in the prison doing a program so that they can, take these programs and use them. So I don't see myself going into the prison and teaching these courses, although I would love to. But I don't really see that as a possibility because I was a volunteer who helped someone escape. So I think a prison might be pretty reluctant to let me come back in as a volunteer. So I think the avenue I need to follow is with other groups that are already established. Plus, there's only one of me.
Yeah, but even after you served your time, so they still won't let you. Okay.
No,
so
no, probably
so
not.
how is your life now?
My life is so rich now. I've created these 3 workbooks. I wrote my memoir. I published a book of poetry that I wrote while I was in prison. It's poems from prison. I'm working on 2 other book projects. I've started my own podcast called Fierce Conversations with Toby, where we really address difficult topics, all the topics that we avoid talking about, like how to deal with a traumatic and sudden death of a child, or how to approach someone who's had a miscarriage and help them through that, or how to survive a wrongful prison conviction and come out on the other side and do something positive with your life, or I just recorded an episode with a young woman who's a college student who has battled an eating disorder and has been suicidal, and how she's worked through that. So we just talk about really difficult topics that most people don't ever talk about, because I feel like we should be aware of them. And if we have these conversations now, then at some point in the future, when, heaven forbid, some tragedy happens to someone in your life, you might be a little bit more equipped to deal with it and help them through it.
And do you live alone? Do you have like a partner?
I got remarried about 1.5 years after I got out of prison. So I am remarried. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so how did that happen? Like, how was the date? How was the dating scene? Where
we
all
really
of that
didn't even date. It was just funny. So we were good friends, and we were both starting over. And Chris, who's my husband now, but he suggested, why don't we rent a 2-bedroom house together? We're both trying to start over, and he knew about my past. And he was trying to work through some things in his past. And he said, why don't we just rent a 2-bedroom house together, and we can share expenses. And then we can, start rebuilding our lives. And when we're ready, we can each go on our own direction. It'd just be a good, time to help each other through. And so we did. But then our relationship kind of grew during that time, and we ended up getting married. So we really never dated, we just kind of.
You were friends, and then from friends.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you remarried? Like you remarried in your 50s?
I guess I was 52 when we got married.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's 9 years younger than me. So I'm going to be 66 in a couple weeks, and Chris is going to be 57 in December. So there's a little bit of an age difference, but it hardly matters at this point in our lives. So Chris has a son. He had one child, and his son was very much a part of his life. And we actually live with them now. So they created a separate living space in their home. So we have our own apartment here, and we live with them, which is great because they have 2 kids who are our grandchildren, and we just love them. And they're right here in the house with us. So it works really well.
It's fun.
That we can be here for them and have this extended family. So it's really been a blessing.
That's nice. So are you still in touch with your sons or your kids?
No, my youngest son died of cancer about a year after I got out of prison. So that was
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was a pretty tough time. And my older son has chosen not to be involved in my life.
Okay.
So maybe someday we'll find a way back together, but that's his choice, and I give him his space.
I'm sorry to hear. It must be tough on you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for me, hearing this story is how you moved on, how the story of resilience, and how you forgave yourself in a
Yes,
sense.
yes.
And I
Mhm.
want to talk about your journey of, or have you, forgiven yourself, or
Yes,
like, well,
I have.
okay.
And
And
you
how
know, it
was,
took a
how, yeah,
while. It took a
yeah.
while. I have forgiven everyone and everything in my life that that might have had an influence on getting me in any direction that I've been. I believe that it's the darkest valleys in our journey where we have the opportunities to learn the most. So,
Okay.
I thank God for all the rough places and all the hard places that I've been because it really made me a stronger woman. And I love who I am today. And I wouldn't change anything about my life because I think where I am is the place I was meant to be and I'm doing the work I was meant to do.
Hmm. And what was the reaction to your memoir? When did you exactly publish the memoir?
I published it in June of last year, 2022.
Okay. Okay.
And I've gotten a lot of great responses from it. And I get emails all the time, from women that I don't know who said, I just read your book, or I just saw your episode on Dateline, or I just heard you on this podcast. And I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you, I know how you feel. I know what you went through. And you give me hope that I can get through this too. And that's what I'm all about,
Hmm.
reaching those women who need hope.
Have you were on Dateline
Mhm.
during what happened, or after? Did they interview after, or
After
just
I was on
after?
Dateline about a year and a half ago, 2 years
Okay.
ago, I guess. Yeah, 2 years ago in June, the episode came out. Yeah.
Okay. I will make sure to check it out. I'm a huge fan
Hmm.
of Dateline.
Yeah. 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 Andrea Canning did my episode. I don't
Uh,
remember what it was called, but it's on my website. There's a link to it on my website.
okay. I'll definitely I'll link to it as well in the show
Yeah.
notes.
Okay. Yeah.
So wow, this is fascinating. So I actually just finished reading a book called The Many Lives of Mama Love. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's another memoir of a woman who was incarcerated for identity theft,
Huh.
and then how she rebuilt her life. And now she's a literary
Hmm.
agent. She's publishing books. So it's
Oh,
just, so,
really?
yeah. So if you want to,
Interesting.
I can send you her info. So that's
Yeah, send me her info. That's great. Yeah.
the book just got published, I think, a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And my
Yeah.
book club, we picked it for my book club, so I just
Oh,
finished it.
good.
Yeah, so
Good. I mean, I'm an
yeah,
avid reader. You can see I'm just surrounded by
sure.
books. There's a whole wall of books over here too. So I
I
love
can
to read.
I
Yeah.
completely relate.
Yes, I can see that. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So let's see. So how was your publishing journey? Did you self-publish? Did you find an agent? How did it go?
Well, my publishing journey was quite interesting. And I think that, I think there's so many excellent stories out there to tell. And I think the
Okay.
world needs to hear them. And
Okay.
I feel there are a lot of different opportunities for people today. I got an agent right off when I, finished my memoir and sent out queries. I got an agent pretty quick. And I was so excited to have an agent. I just jumped right on it. But then COVID hit and, the world just changed. And after 18 months or 2 years and nothing had happened with the agent, I just felt like I needed some fresh eyes on it. I needed to try something different. So I left that relationship with an agent. And then I needed to wait 6 months because there was a period of time where I had to give, space because if another agent approached a publisher that this agent had approached, then she would have gotten credit for it. And so I felt like another agent wouldn't be too willing to take me on until that 6 month period was up. So I
Okay.
decided to just take a 6 month break and, go back and look at the manuscript and see what changes I wanted to make and just come at it again. And during that time, I went to a women in publishing seminar. It was a digital seminar, online, a virtual seminar. And it was a several day program. And I was one of the speakers in that program. So one of the sponsors of the seminar was a publishing company. And they heard my story and they reached out to me and offered me a publishing contract with them. So I ended up going with them and I didn't have an agent at all then. So that's how it worked for me. But, I have a lot of friends. I've become part of a group of women who are all authors and writing and working on their memoirs and other works. And it's so difficult, really, to get an agent because there's so many people writing books out there. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the books by Prince Harry and all these other big names, that's the one that agents want to jump on. But if you're a
Yeah.
brand new first time author, it's a lot more difficult to get get the attention of an agent and a big publishing company. So I think though today we live in a beautiful world where it is possible for people to self-publish their books and get them on Amazon. And there are a lot of opportunities for people. And so I've started helping some women because I have the digital background, computer layout because I did all my workbooks myself, laid them out, and I use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign. So I've started helping other women prepare their manuscripts so that they're ready to be self-published. And I find that that's kind of a fun little niche for me because I believe all of our stories should get out there into the world. And if I can help other people get their stories out there, then, that makes me feel good about the work I'm doing.
Fascinating. So you're helping them for like a fee or for free, or how are you offering services?
For now, I've helped women that were friends of mine, and I've helped them, and I haven't charged them. But I would do it for a fee at some point, probably, because I just enjoy that kind of work, formatting the books and designing covers and things like that.
Yeah, because I actually hired someone to help me lay out my book.
Yeah.
Now I know how to do it myself, but especially if you use Amazon KDP, all these specifications, it drove me crazy. I was like, I can't, it's like, I don't have time for this now. So it was easier to outsource it, but now I know how to do it.
Yeah, that's what I've used for the friends of mine is Amazon's KDP program, which really is pretty easy to get your book out there. But if you don't understand margins and bleeding and, how to create the cover with the right size of spine and all that, it can be intimidating.
It can be. But now they have something called, I think, KDP Create. And
really?
and it helps you with all that stuff. It made it much, much easier. So that's something to think about. So how did the book do? If you're okay sharing with me.
I'm fine with it. So I wrote my book because I believe that there's women out there who need to hear my story, and I want to inspire them and give them hope. And so for me, the measure of how well my book is doing are those emails that I get, several times a month from readers who say, your book has changed my life. That's why I published this book. And so that's how I measure my success. And, I think this is like the third or fourth interview I've done this week. And two of them I didn't even know I was going to do. So, my story continues to have interest out there. And so I view it as a success. As far as the number of books sold, I'm satisfied with the number of books sold. Of course, you'd always like to sell more. But compared to, how many authors out there and how many copies of their books they sell, I think I've done pretty good. So... which isn't excellent. I didn't sell 1 million copies. I didn't even sell 10,000 copies, but I sold several thousand copies, and that's I'm
great.
okay with that. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. I mean, tell me about it. It's really tough.
Yes,
to sell books, and for me, eventually, if it doesn't matter now how many books I sell, there's more books to do. I just enjoying the conversation, the reading, all of that. Especially the conversation with the readers. I think that's what really matters.
I think that's great. And I've had a couple of book clubs who've chosen my book as their what they read. And I offer to book clubs that if they use my book in their book club, then I'll do a Zoom call with them at the end of their reading of it so that they can ask me questions that maybe they had that didn't get answered in the book, or if they want to know, more than what the book had in it. So I've done that once, and I have another meeting scheduled for October, and then I have one scheduled for April of next year. So that's really fun. And I
It is
really
fun.
enjoy that. Yeah.
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 I've done it twice, I think.
Mhm.
With it was really fun. I did it via Zoom.
Yeah. It's really great to hear what the readers think,
Yeah.
and the people who don't know you, because, when you ask your friends to tell you what your book's like, they know you and they know your story, but these are people who knew nothing about me. And it just that's the reason I wrote my book, for those
Yeah.
people. Hmm.
So in terms of marketing, what worked best for you in terms of selling your book? I mean, the reason I ask, because there's lots of aspiring
Hmm.
authors listen to the show. So, I always ask this
Hmm.
question just so that we can help writers
Yeah,
sell
I
their
think
books.
marketing is the hardest part. We wrote the book, and everybody thinks writing a book so hard, and it is. But I'm telling you, it's getting out there and selling it is even harder,
Yeah.
because, as writers, maybe marketing isn't our thing. But,
Yeah.
I did some book signings at, some Barnes and Noble stores. It's harder to get in. Again, it's just like the publishing thing. It's, if you're just a person, and bookstores aren't so willing to have you come in. But Barnes and Noble likes to feature local authors. So I've gone to
Mm.
several different Barnes and Nobles in the area and different cities around me. But social media has to be the tool that you take advantage of. And so I have really delved into social media, and I make a social media post every day. And every
Mm.
day it's about something related to my book. So, like on Wednesdays, I talk about women. I call it Wednesday Women, and they're women who've done something to make a difference in the world. And they're women that we've never heard of, maybe. Because, you could talk about Eleanor Roosevelt and Harriet Tubman. Everybody knows who they are. But I go find Clara Hale and Virginia Hall and some women that whose names are not household names, and I share their stories. So that's my
Mm.
Wednesday post. And then on Fridays, I call it Felony Friday, but I post a
I
lesson
like
that I learned by
I
being
like
in
that.
prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And, then I talk about things related to my book. I talk about, there's a day of the week, and I forget which day, but I post something about criminal justice, injustice, criminal injustice, something that's broken in our criminal justice system. And so each day I try to come up with a different kind of a theme, but it all ties back into my book. But it isn't just saying, hey, buy my book, here's my book. I'm trying to, educate people about the topics that my book covers.
Hmm.
And then one day a week, I put a plug out there for one of my books or the card deck that I publish too, and just remind people that those are out there. So,
What channel? What channel you think you're more active? You're most active on,
well,
and that it's with the
it's
highest
so funny.
ROI. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I get the most feedback from Instagram.
Yeah. Instagram for authors.
Mhm. But I use LinkedIn because I've delved into this deep community of criminal justice reform people in LinkedIn. So if I
Ah.
want to talk about a topic that's related to statistics, or, prison statistics, or, some particular case, I always go to LinkedIn for that kind of post.
Yeah. Have you tried TikTok?
I haven't tried TikTok at all. And I know I should. Everybody says, and it's like, how many social media platforms can one person manage,
I know. I know.
Because I have
Yeah.
Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, or X, and
Yeah.
Instagram. And so I haven't gone to TikTok, but I know I should. So that maybe
Yeah.
I'll put that on my list for 2024.
So what I do is the same, like reels that I create for
Mhm.
Instagram. I just post them on TikTok.
Just post them on TikTok. Yeah.
And I get some engagement from new
Mhm.
different audience I've
Mhm.
never
Yeah.
heard of. It's interesting, but that's something, to consider. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm like you, like dabbling with different platforms.
Yes.
But honestly, now my favorite platform is podcasting because of
Oh,
the
mine too. Yes.
because of
I
the
love
intimate
podcasting.
conversation that
Yes, I love it.
yeah.
And, I release my podcast in an audio version on all the podcast platforms, but I also release a video version on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of feedback on the YouTube channel.
Ah, that's good to know.
Way more comments than I do on the podcast.
Interesting.
But,
Because I post
yeah.
mine on the YouTube, and the engagement is not that great. So Any tips on how to improve it? Or is it the thumbnail?
I promote it on my social media. So one day a week, Tuesdays is my day to promote my podcast, either on the YouTube or the podcast
Okay.
itself. And so I don't know. And I'm kind of feeling my way through this. I just started my podcast in April of this year. And, but I've already got interviews recorded to last me through March of next year. So
Yeah.
I've got a lot of interest in it. So
Yeah, I mean, I told you
see how it goes.
It is. It's a great story. I mean, it's a tough what happened to you, but how you survived is very inspiring.
Yeah.
And so there was in the news, I think, a few years ago. Sorry, I was in a fog with all the little kids in my house, so maybe I didn't pay that much attention. But there was a story about, I think, a woman, a prison guard, a female prison guard,
Vicky White,
yes,
and Casey White, in May of 2022. Yeah.
That she helped 2 inmates escape, correct?
Well, no, that was Joyce Mitchell in 2015 in New York. She helped 2 inmates escape.
Yes. Yeah.
The story that was in May, and then they did the movie Escape from Dan Mora about her, about the Joyce Mitchell story. Okay. And actually the Joyce Mitchell story is at the end of my book, because it was when she helped those 2 people escape that I realized I'd kind of come to a crossroads in my life. Either I need to embrace the notoriety of my story and go out there and tell it, or I need to just build this separate, quiet little life. And I decided, to embrace my story. And, I've been on Anderson Cooper and Inside Edition, and, all kinds of people have come and wanted my input. And so, I've embraced those opportunities. But then last May, so Joyce Mitchell was a big part of where I am today. She's the one that brought me out of, my safe space. But last May, Vicky White, who was a deputy in a prison, helped Casey White escape. And when I saw that headline, it just devastated me, because I knew exactly what was going on, and I knew exactly how she felt and what she was going through. And and once again, the media came and wanted to know, why would she do that? And I followed that story so close. And I had every intention of being there to help Vicky White through this, because we knew she'd get caught at some point, and you knew she was going to go to prison. And I wanted to be there and offer her support and let her know she could do this, and I intended to try to be a really strong part of her life and be somebody she could lean on and who would be there for her. But she died in the capture. Evidently she killed herself. She shot herself in the head. And I was devastated, just devastated, because Vicky White was such a good person. And I think she had so much to offer the world. And I was just devastated, because, that could have been me. I felt myself in her story so much. And,
that's heartbreaking. So I'm not familiar with her story. So she fell in love with an inmate and she escaped with him.
Yes.
And during the capture, she shot herself.
Yes.
That's horrible.
Yes. It was just devastating. And it showed me so clearly how my story could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And did the media contact you after these couple of stories?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a lot. Mm-hmm.
Did that trigger some emotions
It did.
Yeah.
It really did, because during that time when you're on the run and you're with this person that you've fallen in love with, I mean, there's euphoria for being together, but there's also this crushing paranoia that someone's looking for you, and, did they see us? And, it's just, you can't even put into words the pressure of that time when you're on the run, because it's just, you're expecting the worst every single second. So it's hard to just live, It was really a weird kind of a time warp couple of weeks, because you couldn't really be a person, it was just an odd place to be.
Yeah. So what happened to, his name is John, right? The
John.
inmate that you fell in love with. So they caught him. What happened to him?
Yeah. So he got 20 years added to his life sentence.
Okay.
For the escape. So,
And he's
and
still there?
he's still in prison. He's
Are you
still
are
in
you
prison.
are you in touch with him?
Yes, off and on I am. He'll email me once in a while, and we'll just have a period of a few months where we exchange emails regularly, and then he'll drift away, and then someday he'll pop back in with an email. So we do stay in touch. And actually, my husband and I have gone to visit him in prison, and
Ah.
that was really a valuable and necessary step in my journey because, we never really got closure. You just kind of get ripped apart and you kind of got to find your own way out of this relationship. But going to visit him in prison, I could give him a hug and I could tell him goodbye and I could feel closure and I could just move on with my life. So it was a really valuable experience.
Do you think it was genuine love or was it
I do think it was. No, I do think that he loved me and I know I loved him. I do think it was genuine. I don't think it could have lasted. I think
Okay.
there were so many things against that relationship that it wouldn't have lasted forever. But I do think that it was authentic.
And he was in jail for who did he murder?
Well, he didn't actually kill someone, which is also factored into my decision to help him. But he was convicted of murder under the felony murder rule. So if someone is killed during a felony, then anyone that's involved with the felony gets convicted of murder. So they were stealing a car, and there happened to be a man sleeping in the car, and his buddy shot this man that was sleeping in the car as they got in to steal the car.
Okay.
So that's how. And he was just 17, he was just a kid and he didn't think he could get convicted of murder. So he wouldn't even talk to his attorney about the case. And, but he was convicted of murder and given a life sentence. And the sad part of his story is that if his crime had been committed in a neighboring county, he probably would have gotten 8 or 10 years sentence. But he just happened to be in a county that was really tough on crime and didn't tolerate crime at all. So, there were a lot of things against him. And, part of me felt bad that he got such a crappy deal in his sentencing, but that wasn't my place to try to fix it. But I did, I did try.
Wow. Have you seen the movie? It's a comedy, but it's Raising Arizona.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, it's just it's an old movie. And she's a prison guard who fell in love with one. And I'm not sure if she helped him escape or she waited for him to serve his sentence. And then she married him. And then she married him. And then 2 inmates escape and they come to his house to stay with him. So it's a comedy. It has a Nicolas Cage, but it's it's interesting for you to watch and to give your comments, and maybe that would be a good social media post.
Yeah, I'll put it on. I put it on my list. I am going to watch it and see, but that would be a good social media post.
There's a line in it that I always quote, which is, so I was born in Jordan in the Middle East, right? And I think you can tell from the accent. But so she's telling her husband that, we cannot have those inmates here in the house, they escaped. And he was like, and he goes like in his voice that I think it was Nicolas Cage, he's like, but honey, it was like, but honey, in Arab land, they would put out a plate. It was like, you should accept the guest regardless of what their background is. So now whenever like anyone comes to my house and people like don't want to serve, just like, but honey, in Arab land, they would put out a plate.
That's funny. Yeah.
It is funny. But that was, see, I'm wearing this as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
In Arab land, but so it'd be interesting for you to watch it.
I put it on my list here. We'll watch it. Yeah. So I also do book reviews on my social media. So
okay, so
I just kind of mix it up. So it's not like every day it's the same thing. It's just different stuff. But I have a stack of books about topics that are near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to do book reviews of those books that have purpose.
So you should definitely have the many lives of Mama Love, and maybe you should actually have her on your podcast.
I think that'd be a great idea. I'm going to make a note.
She just published it. I think she served a year in prison for identity theft. She was addicted to heroin and led her to make all these bad choices and all that. So this been amazing, Toby, and I salute you for your courage, for your ability to reinvent yourself, for inspiring others, and for just showing us that we can make mistakes, we can self-forgive, we can start over. And the tragedy of the woman that you mentioned that shot herself, that it could have been you, but how you survived it. And that's the good story that we want to hear, is that we're all humans, we all err, we all make mistakes. And for society for us to forgive ourselves, and for society to give us a second chance as well.
Yes, because one of the things I like to say is that none of us is our worst mistake. We're a whole conglomeration of a life. We're not just that one worst mistake.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, who of us is perfect, and who of us is gonna cast a stone on others, so
my husband likes to say we're all felons. We just haven't got caught. You got caught. So.
Exactly. There's a felon in all of us.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So, Toby, any final words? I'm gonna make sure to watch the Dateline episode tonight.
Okay, good.
But any final about
I just think it's so important for all of us to tell our stories, because I think the world needs to hear them, and I think it's so important for women, especially as they approach midlife, to really take a healthy look at their lives and see what prison they need to escape. So in my life, it was perfectionism and duty and, my workaholicness. So I think we all have something we need to escape from in our own lives. And you can do it in a healthy way.
Yeah, this is amazing. And for anyone who's listening or watching, they can find your books on Amazon, on your website, and
TobyDorr.com.
TobyDorr.com.
All 5 of my books are on Amazon, and the 2 that I'm working on will be out there as soon as they're published. So,
excellent. Well, for anyone who's listening or watching, thank you for joining another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. And until we meet again, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye, Natasha.
Thank you for tuning in to Read and Write with Natasha. I'm your host, Natasha Tynes. If today's episode inspired you in any way, please take the time to review the podcast. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with fellow book lovers. Until next time, happy reading, happy writing.